Institutionalized. Someone losing the ability to function independently due to long term confinement in an institution. A practice that has become established, systematic part of culture. How many of you think you've been institutionalized? Some may say indoctrination. Something happened along your journey that changed where you are. You're institutionalized. Welcome to Principles. When I think about being institutionalized, some may think of it as prison. And prison is more of a social construct. So it's not the simple fact that you are physically confined to a space and in prison. It could also be a mental space. It could also be a mental space. But in the grand scam, excuse me, in the grand scheme of things, when you institutionalize, it could be from a plethora of things. So, like, let's talk about this. Henry Ford, what is he known for? Most people say, oh, yeah, the Ford Motor Company. That's true. And then others would also say he's known for the assembly line, watching, observing, and learning from other people how to mass produce. Henry Ford is known for mass producing. He was not the first person to create an automobile. He is the first person with the recognition of the automobile. Mass production and the assembly line was birthed from Henry Ford. So people that work at a plant, a mill, production company, manufacturing, they all understand that his contributions to that endeavor contributed to why they're able to do what they do now. That's Henry Ford. John D. Rockefeller, Standard Oil Company. Unless you drive an electric vehicle and you live in an electric society, you understand his contribution. And when I say electric society, I mean there are a lot of electric vehicles that operate based upon fossil fuels. Somehow or another, the power has to be generated in order to send electricity to charge these vehicles. But John D. Rockefeller was known for oil, Standard Oil Company. And what a lot of people don't realize is gasoline is a byproduct of diesel. Diesel is the main product. Gasoline is the byproduct of what's made. You take one product that you're trying to make, but you also get a byproduct, and then you figure out what to do with it. And that's where gasoline came into effect at, because for many years they didn't know what to do with this product. They produced the diesel. Most vehicles and equipment and trucks and stuff like that run on diesel. But you get this byproduct. I don't know what to do with it. And then a market is created that, hey, we can make an engine that can handle this byproduct, which is gasoline, that comes from producing diesel. But diesel is more of the necessity, because diesel needs less RPMs to generate power, horsepower, and torque than gas. But that's John D. Rockefeller's lane, where it institutionalized and contributed to institutionalize most citizens. Cornelius V. Vanderbilt, or Cornelius Vanderbilt, excuse me. Most people don't know Cornelius Vanderbilt, but they've heard of Vanderbilt Railroad Company, rail transportation. Whatever doesn't get to your door and in your house that came through a truck came by rail. Think about that. Transportation is like a key necessity. You have air transportation, you have vessel transportation, you have rail transportation, and you have truck transportation. Everything in your house got to the store that you got it from via a truck, or got to the warehouse or distribution center or fulfillment center based upon a truck. A lot of people don't realize that. Andrew Carnegie, steel production. Most of the buildings that we work in have steel structure. You ever went out of town and stayed in a hotel, it has steel structure. Vehicles have steel structure. That was his contribution to society. Now, I'm going to say a name that most people probably never heard of. I know when I was uh, researching this topic for today, institutionalized, I learned some names that I wasn't aware of and their contribution to society. Frederick McKinley Jones, refrigerated trucks. Refrigerated trucks. What do you think refrigerated trucks provide to your circumstances, your personal economy? What I learned to believe and know for fact is the minute that this became a concept, an active concept, you can move produce and meat all over the country and it not spoil. Before, that wasn't an opportunity that was really present. Most people raised animals for a reason. Most people grew crop for a reason. For the simple fact that if you live in a Virginia or Pennsylvania and you're looking for produce out of Florida, by the time it's loaded and received, half that load is spoiled. How you gonna send meat that ain't salted to preserve it So refrigeration is a big reason as to why we can go to the grocery store or go to a restaurant and get produce and get meat that hasn't spoiled, that has traveled from regions where they don't grow or they're not raised. Florida is the citrus state. I've yet to see an orange tree in Virginia or North Carolina or South Carolina. So we know it comes out of that region. Grapes grow vastly on the West Coast. Now they do grow on the East Coast, the Midwest, and down South to a different degree, but massively they grow on the West Coast. Refrigeration was a way to bring product from different regions without spoiling. Tomatoes, oranges, apples, grapes, meat, they're all raised in different regions. They're harvested in different regions, and then they're shipped to where they're needed. But refrigeration controls the spoils of that and how much. That was one that I learned. Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, fiber optic cables and a touch tone phone. We all communicate through these way of means. The touch tone phone, pretty much the house phone. Most people don't have a house phone in this today in this time. But it started way back when to where you can communicate throughout households based upon this technology. Fiber optic cables and Wi-Fi based upon this technology. James West created a patent for the microphone technology and it's still used to this day. I'm talking to you through a microphone that is more than likely licensing the patent based upon his creation. You're talking on your cell phone that is more than likely licensed based upon the patent from his creation. Why does any of this matter? When we think back to Henry Ford in the Model T, mass produced. Again, he wasn't the first to produce a vehicle. He was the first to mass produce the vehicle. But what did it do to markets that centered around transportation in his realm? I don't see any horse and buggy. Not saying they don't exist, but there's no horse and buggy. The horse business, which was a big business, is no longer a big business because we have the automobile. Gas-powered, diesel-powered engines for transportation. I remember reading a while back where, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he told Henry Ford, like, look, like horse and buggy ain't going nowhere. I don't know what you're doing. That ain't gonna work. Now, that was way back when, early 1900s. It's 2026. There are a lot of vehicles on the road. The time travel via vehicle versus horse and buggy is totally different. We would have took horse and buggy, 2 weeks to a month to make a trip. You can do in 12 hours. John D. Rockefeller provided fuel for the automobile, also provided kerosene, lamp oil to light indoor properties. So the need for provide light and heat. So the need to necessarily burn wood all the time to heat your property wasn't the same. So a lot of people in the wood business felt the effects of people not needing to burn wood as much. The steel contribution by Carnegie, mass construction, buildings, skyscrapers, anything that needed steel that was getting produced. Bridges. Imagine in their day, the only way to get across a body of water was via a ferry. Now you have bridges to get across these big body of water. There's a lot of steel in them bridges. You may see concrete, but there's steel in them bridges. Food being transported across the country, that was a great contribution. Because if you live in a region where strawberries grow, oranges grow, peaches grow, different vegetables grow, we're able to get them in other parts where they're not as plentiful just because we're able to preserve it through refrigeration. Henry Ford, along with mass production and the assembly line, that's when you really saw like what some would call the American Revolution, where you have, the birth of the plants, the factories, the mills, the assembly lines, because we're able to mass produce. And since we're able to mass produce, we can continue to push forth our efforts and work and get more people working and do more mass production and create more products and bring more products to market. And what, in my mind, what it did was it took a lot of self-sustainability from people, because if I'm a young kid, and I say this with a frame of reference of I grew up on a farm. I don't live on a farm today. So if I grew up in those circumstances and then I get older, I'm grown, I start working, and I see that I can have a different path. I don't have to raise farm animals. I can make good money. I can put food on the table. And I don't have to like really think about what animal I didn't feed or what crop I didn't try to harvest or grow. So it gave me a false sense. It gave lots of people a false sense that, hey, you don't have to know how to do these things because you can work and go buy these things. So it took away your self sustainability. It took away your independence. You don't see it as such because you haven't been affected. But what I'll say in my circumstances is I'm thankful that I had the childhood that I had, for the simple fact that I'm able to reference that childhood. So if I had to raise animals or if I had to grow crops, I understand what that looks like and what it would take. A lot of people don't got that luxury. A lot of people don't have that luxury. You go to the grocery store to provide you everything. If I had to go in the woods and get it, I'll go in the woods and get it. I'm not looking for the grocery store to provide me what I can go and get if I had to go and get it. So being institutionalized, you lose that self sustainability, and you lose a lot of skill sets because most people will say, as a kid, I want to go work for this place. I want to go to work for that place. In these places, they'll train you to do certain jobs and aspects of the job, but you don't really learn any skills beyond that job. You get real good at doing that job. And in today's time, we see it, AI is taking over on a lot of things. Artificial intelligence is taking over on a lot of things. So a lot of things that people never saw is I'm gonna lose this to a computer or to artificial intelligence. They're now waking up realizing that I'm about to lose my job to artificial intelligence. And I have no knowledge of this technology and what its full capabilities are. You can train people for jobs, but you can't train them to have skills. And growing up, you knew someone that did carpentry or electrical or HVAC or masonry, or they can do general contractor work. They can build, construct, all of that good stuff, mechanical work. But when you are not brought up in that environment, and there's a lot of people that weren't brought up in that environment. But when you're not brought up in that environment, you lose a lot of those skill sets. If you make enough money there where you can call someone to fix your problems, you lose a lot of those skill sets. So I'm very thankful. And I'm just speaking from my personal frame of reference that I'm very thankful that I was able to learn a lot in that environment and different skills that I don't have to call a lot of people to do certain things. Now, are there things beyond my realm? Yeah. But can I, make an attempt and work towards things to rectify a problem? Yeah, I can do that as well. But that's not the same across the board for a lot of people. And I understand that. I truly do. So, all of this to say the names that I said earlier is it's indoctrination of the worker. I want you to be dependent on me to pay you. And what I pay you, you can go buy food, you can provide shelter to your family, you can get transportation to get you to and from work. Because I need you here, for 8, 10, 12 plus hours a day. I don't need you in the field tending to a garden. I don't need you in the field raising your meat, your cattle, your pork, your chicken. I need you here. And so what was naturally passed down through generations by people, those skills of growing and raising, was lost. And then you get a society that's really dependent on what they can get from the grocery store. And if the grocery store don't have it, and you don't have the knowledge to raise it, then you won't have it. You're dependent on what society and the economy is doing. So in saying that, it's okay to work a job and have a business on the side, do things on the side, grow crops on the side, whatever it is. It's okay to work. It's okay to do multiple things. It's okay. You don't have to be pigeonholed to one thing. You don't have to be pigeonholed to I work my 9 to 5, or I put in my 8 here, my 10 here, my 12 here, and I'm stuck to this. I'm married to that. I'm married to this idea. You don't have to be pigeonholed to that. But for some people, that's enough. For others, if you want more out of life and you want to achieve more than what you're receiving in life currently, you're going to have to put in more effort. Don't become complacent, and happy with a paycheck. Because you could always do more. Whatever is going on in your life right now, you could always do more. Now, whether you want to do it or not, that's a different story. But you could definitely always do more than what you are currently doing. And for some people, they got this work hustle mentality that you'll look at them and say, man, when you sleeping? How you sleeping? When you get rest? And where I'm from, a lot of people say, man, I sleep when I'm dead. You got that mindset going, you got that hustle going. For those that work a job and they decided to start a business, whether they started that business because they were in a place of struggle or they came across something that they thought would be beneficial to society or to the market that they're in, if you ever experienced that, it's a crazy adrenaline rush. Like imagine working your job, doing your shift, and then when you're off, you're working on your business. When you're working, after your work hours, you're working on your business. It's a different level of adrenaline rush. It's satisfying because you can see what can come from it. You can see the potential. Even if it don't work out, you learn so much about yourself that you can do it. There's been times where I remember working night shifts, getting off in the morning. It'd be the last night shift, and I'd be off for a few days. And I remember, because I had a landscaping business at one time, I'm cutting grass all day. I just work 12 hours, 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. I get off in the morning. I take a shower. I eat breakfast. And now I'm out cutting grass till 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. And I get home, truck and trailer, walk in the house, take another shower, and lay down, be dead to the world till the next morning. But I felt accomplished. I felt accomplished in those moments because I felt I was changing my trajectory. I wasn't being as institutionalized to where I'm dependent on this organization or this company to provide for my every need, and I don't have any real skills or knowledge outside of what I do on the job. We have to change that dynamic. Too many people are just happy with going to school, going to college, getting a degree, getting a job, and utilizing what they pay you to provide for your family or for yourself. But you don't know how to grow plants. You don't know how to raise chicken or cattle or pigs. Having that knowledge puts you in a different realm, in my opinion. You don't want to be so dependent on your job to provide you everything, or even be so dependent on the grocery store to provide you everything. It's really simple. How many of you ever bought potatoes and they're on the counter in your house too long and they start sprouting? You realize you can put that in the ground and grow your own potatoes. The same with onions. It's not as simple as, meat animals, but it could provide to you something. But if you have the mindset that, okay, it's sprouting, that means it's bad, I'm going to run to the grocery store and get some more, when you can just put it in your own dirt, grow your own crop, and have potatoes for yourself. We lose power when we're so dependent on what someone else or another entity can do for us or provide to us, to the degree that We just go to the grocery store and we get what we need. We can get canned goods, we can get dry goods. But how many of these goods can you provide for yourself? Think about that. And money isn't the only currency. Because if you can grow crop, that's currency. If you can raise animals, that's currency. You got a bunch of chickens, you got eggs, that's currency. You have different skills and trades, that's currency. That's currency. So, in closing, I'll say we have to realize that sometimes there's a social construct. There's a place that people want us or entities want us. And when I say us, I'm talking about society. They want us in this position where we're dependent on them. We're looking to them. And I'm saying free yourself from the looking to them to I can provide if I need to. I can provide if I want to. Because if you're stuck in this realm of if my job don't cut me a paycheck, I won't eat, then you got a lot to learn. If my job don't cut me a paycheck, I'm gonna be by the river trying to catch some fish, some crabs. I'm gonna go hunting, try to get me some chickens. I'm a barter based upon my skill sets, the things that I can do, even if I don't want to do them, because I still gotta provide. I still gotta be of benefit to my wife and children. But institutions want you to do this one thing and be honed in on it. And I'm not saying all collectively. I'm saying as we adopted this ID or this idea early in the 1900s, it was we need the man working, the woman working, the children going to school. There's no farm. You don't need land. You just need this house on this structure, this plot of land. You don't need a garden. You can go to the grocery store. You don't need cattle. You can go to the meat market. Once we got so pigeonholed and stronghold onto that, we lost a lot of this knowledge being passed along for generations. And I know my upbringing is different from a lot of people, but the one thing that I used to hate is now the one thing that as a 40-year-old man I adore. I used to hate being on the farm. I used to hate dealing with cows, pigs, chickens, and the day-to-day. It was always something to do. I hated it. But as I reflect, and this takes time as to why I'll say, you got to reflect and look at your frame of reference. Now I understand. I understand why I went through those things, why I learned what I learned, because the truth is, my father, he ain't gonna always be here. My mother, she ain't gonna always be here, but I learned things from them that'll carry on beyond them. Same for their parents. I want the same for my children. All right. Now, hands-on experience as far as raising animals and stuff like that, I don't really see that part of it happening, but just the knowledge of what it looks like or growing plants, you know. But we lose so much with different generations and we don't adapt to these new circumstances, or we do adapt to the fact that why raise a cow when I can go to the market, to the grocery store and purchase a cut of beef. No sweat. I didn't have to put up no fence. I ain't had to fertilize no grass. I ain't had to, you know, separate and harvest the animal. Just go to the store and buy it. What I'm looking for. What I got a taste for. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking nobody for that. I'm simply saying is, do you know what it took to get to the table? Do you know? Well, and even if you don't eat meat, if you're a vegan, you're a pescatarian, do you know what it took to get to your table? Because we all see the end product, but we don't see the work that go into it. So we don't value it the same. If you ever planted a garden and you're eating those vegetables from your garden, that has more of a satisfying aspect to it because you know what you put into it. You know what you did to get to that point. Whereas for others, it's just, I went to the grocery store. I needed some tomatoes. I needed some lettuce. Let's go to the grocery store. How'd you get there? What did it take? The cost to get to the table versus you bringing it to the table. Totally different. But this is where the mass society wants a lot of people. Dependency. Not for money, but just in your day to day. When your parents were children, my parents are baby boomers. When they were children, you think grocery stores existed the way that they exist today? You may say, oh, okay, well, there's more people. That may be true. But there's less people that know how to do what they know how to do. Depending on where you live, you can drive 5 miles and run into 5 grocery stores and 20 restaurants. Think about that. And again, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying open your eyes and your thoughts to the fact that some things can change to a degree that you don't see. But what does it cost you to get it to your table? How you get it to your table? What you willing to do to put it on your table? Principles.